leaves by way of the efferent. Some of that blood is going to just, it's not going to get pushed into this peritubular. It's just going to simply make its way to the vein and leave. Still cleansed, okay? The majority of it, we're going to have it move through this capillary network, the vasa recta, that's in contact with my loops. Why do you think that's the case? For more filtration. Because there's going to be pressures. Well, maybe I should say gradients created all the way around that loop. And if I have a gradient, doesn't stuff like to move down its gradient? Okay, some stuff's going to move against it, okay? But it's for more filtration. And each part, whether we're going to look at the blood moving through this glomerulus, or as we have the fluid that will collect in the Bowman's capsule, okay, as that fluid begins to travel, each part of this system removes or returns something. Yes, no, maybe.
So once it's filtered and it leaves through the efferent, does it go back to the heart or goes back to the...
Right, so once we have it leave by way of that renal vein, it continues its travel to the right side of the heart. But now it's cleansed. So, as we look at this, where we've got the glomerulus and we've got this Bowman's capsule, this is termed the renal corpuscle. That ball of capillaries and the area where it sits. That's the renal corpuscle. As we begin to look at its structure, because the structure is important, the structure is going to determine its function, okay? You guys remember parietal and visceral layers, okay? Parietal, outer layer. This is simple squamous epithelium. Why do I note that? What do you remember about simple squamous epithelium? It's one layer. It's egg-shaped, fried egg-shaped, and it's designed for letting substance move. So the outer layer is going to be simple squamous. The visceral, or the inner layer, we're going to call what that structure is podocytes, because they wrap around the capillaries. What does pod mean? Foot. They actually look like foot-like process. If I don't have it in what I posted last night, begin writing. Write this down. If this slide's not in there. Is it not in the grouping that I posted last night?
It's not in what I printed for yesterday.
Okay.
For class. You must have added it last night.
That's what I'm saying. So if I've added, because I let y'all know yesterday I had to create these notes. Okay? So that's what I'm doing. I'm creating them. I even made a note on on Blackboard. If it's not in there, write. Begin writing. All right? So, parietal, visceral. What's in between is the capsular space, because this glomerulus is sitting in the Bowman's capsule. Now what we're going to say about this capsule. The capsule has what's called the vascular pole and the urinary pole. That is simply referring to the sides of that capsule. All right? Because one side had to bring in the blood, one side had to meet the tube that's going to form the urine. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Vascular versus urinary.
There's usually a fluid between the parietal and the visceral, but there's not.
Oh yeah,
There's,
because as we have that filtration occur in that ball of capillaries, that's pushing out a substance, and that's the fluid. This is what it looks like. That is the renal corpuscle. Now just kind of study it for a second.
and the renal corpuscles are in the pyramids of the medulla.
Well, when you begin to look at that structure, all right, so if I have my outer portion and I've got my renal pyramid, like this, cortex, medulla, okay? There's a region that we tend to think of as being that region between the cortex and the medulla, okay? Some of those nephrons are going to kind of be right here at this region. And remember how one only dipped so far, okay? Then we've got another one that dipped all the way down, okay? This is sort of the way we would see the renal corpuscles. Because this little area that I drew like a circle, this is my corpuscle. Because this had the close connection to the blood supply. So, if I have my blood come in by way of the afferent, which is big, leave by way of the efferent, I've got a huge flow that can move through this ball of capillaries, and it's under high pressure because this is small, creating that pressure gradient. Yes, no, maybe. So my blood comes in, and my blood, under this pressure, it's got a strong force to it. So what I'm finding, I've got this whole capsule right here. This is my vascular pole. This is my urinary pole, because this is going to lead to those tubes, okay? So this blood under pressure, it's getting in contact with those cell layers. The simple squamous epithelium. And then note that as we look at the wrappings around the ball of capillaries, they're wrapped in this stuff that has the podocytes. See how they're trying to show the little slits and stuff that are present? Okay? So we're under a special structure now. So the pressure comes in, the blood comes in, there's high pressure, we're meeting cells that allow for the diffusion or movement of substances. Now, there's some control because we've got this other portion wrapping around the capillary, and as the blood flows through with all of the stuff in it, those nitrogenous waste, anything that would be in the blood that's not needed, the hormones, the drugs, whatever the case might be, they get pushed out through this structure.
And that's
Because-
what goes down into the tube.
because now we have the filtration. So this is the filtering of the blood. So that stuff that gets pushed out becomes the fluid that will be found in this capsule, and that fluid will now leave by way of the urinary pole and begin moving through the loops, the tubes.
Now, does every pyramid have multiple?
Oh yeah,
Like
because
there's-
you've got millions. You know, you've got over 1 million of these. So I'd be afraid to say how many of the little nephrons would be found in one pyramid. So I don't know if we do just some math and think about if there's, let's go with 10, because it's probably something I can deal with. 10 into 1 million, and if they're spread out evenly, 10 into 1 million is what, 100,000 per pyramid.
So I have lots of questions about this too.
Okay.
So if someone was really sick and they had blood in their urine, what could be going wrong?
Now, usually if that's the case, blood cells should be too big to push through all of this. However, when we look at this structure that's been created between the simple squamous epithelium and then that area making the tissue making up this wrapping around it with the podocytes, this is termed the filtration membrane. And what will happen, there's damage to this membrane at some point, and the red blood cells are pushed out. And they become part of the fluid, and because there's nowhere else in this tubular structure for it to return it back to the body's system, it comes out in the urine, because that's the urine formation. So there's some type of damage to that filtration membrane.
So if you donate a kidney to someone, does it not overwork your other kidney? Not have any kind of
Nope.
issue?
Because you have, I mean, seriously, you can live perfect with one kidney for the rest of your life. Because they are so precise on what they do that even though we have over 1 million nephrons per kidney, there's no way that 2 million are working at one time. They just don't. Even though we're pushing 1 liter through per minute. That's how good they are at their job.
Now, if you're having kidney issues, though, does it still pump through a liter?
There are different things that will be affected. If the kidneys are having problems, it could actually be the blood flow. It could actually be damage to the arterioles. It could be damage to this glomerulus, okay? Usually, most of the time, a lot of the kidney damage is in the glomerulus, this capillary bed. They can actually get bursted and not even function anymore, and that means that it puts extra pressure on the other ones, and it can actually kill off the kidney tissue at that spot the more damage that occurs. So they're amazing structures. So we think of the kidneys, but it's actually down at this microscopic level that the work is occurring. Pretty amazing, I think. Yes, now maybe? Okay. All right, we'll let that soak in. Pick it up there on Monday.